So I think we need to talk about something. This summer, one of my friends, Elvin, he came to me and he said, Eva-Lisa, I'm kind of struggling. You see, he has a Cape Verdean background and he lives in Holland. This means, you can look around you if you would like, that he is not overrepresented in his looks. Now that means that he doesn't always feels comfortable around other people, blending, merging in. But at school, this was never ever a topic. Now I find that quite strange, because you see, I too had troubles of my own in my life as a person, and these problems were never a topic at school. Since we were little, about 4 years old in the Netherlands, we are at school 8 hours a day or more. This means that most of our time is spent in the educational institution. It means also that schools should not merely focus on knowledge, because you see, what you put in someone, you will get out again. So if you put in knowledge, 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 what do you get? Knowledge. But knowledge is not the essence of this world, you see. I think education has 3 purposes, and we're only focusing on one: qualification. And we're doing a really, really good job in that, in this qualification. But there is also personalization. Who am I as a person? How do I shape myself? And socialization. How do I treat others? And these last 2 things are never under the attention of the current higher educational system in the Netherlands. So when I entered the school, what I saw was this. Very, very, very disengaged students. Maybe you've seen this before if you're a teacher or a principal or a director. But this is what we do to students. We make them disengaged because there's no fit. And I was wondering, we have this millennial, this new kind of students with their own needs and with their specific behavior, with their interests. And on the other hand, we have the school with their needs, with their curriculums, with their accreditation. And there's a gap between the student of the 21st century and the school of the 21st century. And I was wondering, how could it be that students spend over 2,000 euros a year on their education? But not merely that, but also spend over 40 hours a week on their education and can be so disengaged and rather go to the clubs and to the pubs, go Netflixing during school, or go on Facebook to look at their photos they made this weekend. Now, I missed this socialization and personalization. And when you miss something, you can do one of 3 things. The first thing you can do is simply to shrug. Whatever. That's what most students do. The second thing you can do is to rebel. You see, this picture behind me is made in 2015 at the University of Amsterdam, a few blocks from here, where students took over their university because they wanted more to build on their own curriculum and to be a part of this process we call building a school, building an education, building a university. Now, as we know today, that doesn't really work either, because a few weeks ago there was another rebel at the University of Amsterdam. So we still have troubles with this concept. Now, the third thing you can do is to create. And this last thing, to create, that is something I really wanted to do. I wanted to create something new. Because I feel that school should be an experimental ground where you can fall and rise, get back up again, and learn who you are and what kind of impact you can make on this world. We live in the 21st centuries with really complex challenges such as climate shift, globalization, digitalization, with Americanization, things that we cannot solve on our own and not from one discipline. So we have to relate ourselves to these really complex problems from multiple perspectives. And we are not taught to be these impactful human beings. We are taught to be machines with machine minds and machine hearts. We are merely a number in a university, and no one sees who you really are. Universities are not made for the 21st centuries because we use principles we have been using for hundreds of years. So it's time for a revolution. So the 21st century student is in a split, with his left leg ever stooled in the second phase concept, with accreditation, with functionality, with efficiency, but his right leg reaching to build a new world where we can face the challenges of today. So I gathered a group of interdisciplinary friends, that students also, that thought about these matters exactly the way I did. And we bended over these problems. How can we revolutionize the world so we don't come out as machines, but as impactful human beings? And we started building our own curriculums. Now we simply had two rules. We have to develop a curriculum, courses that will change us forever for the good. And we want people to have an experience they never had before and never will have. An experience they will remember forever. To make each class memorable. Because, like I mentioned, we are taught to be more machines than humans. So we had this idea about creating classes. We had this idea of creating classes, this wonderful idea of making impact, of working on self-confidence, working on purpose, working on where does your heart lie, and how can others merge in that system where you can change together. But this idea was quite impossible because we still have to deal with this 21st completely disengaged student. And on top of all the work they already have, what do we want? We want to give them more work, and they will receive absolutely nothing for it. So how will we do this in this already overwhelming extracurricular university? We simply had an idea, and we said, you are the people that can change this world. You are the people that can be more sustainable today. You are the people that have impact to make this world into a wonderful adventure. And we wanted to tell this story to anyone who wanted to hear it, with students in the lead. Students had to build this course on their own, under the radar, without teachers being a part of this, without directors and school principals being a part of this, no board of direction involved, nothing. No, we wanted this. And we started sharing. And what we saw was absolutely incredible. These are students in front of the classroom talking about self-confidence, because this is a subject they have been spending their time upon since they were little. And these students are here not because they get ECTs for this, not because they have to, but because they want to. And we saw classes in these courses we created that were absolutely full. Students were living together and laughing together, but also crying together, because they could be more vulnerable in these classrooms than they have ever been. We saw students that were absolutely engaged with the process and with their education, simply because they were taught by peers. And these peers knew what their environment was, what their challenges were, and how to connect with each other. So we started this 3 years ago. And where are we now? This is a perfect example of some young entrepreneurs going into their garage, toying a little bit with their computer, and now we are Apple. See, we have been able to go across the country to inspire other universities to apply the same principles, because we feel that this really works, and the results are amazing, because our students last less long on their education, they get higher grades, they are more likely to participate in interdisciplinary projects, and they are easier to fill in a job at the market. Yeah, so we do certificate, and that is simply because you have to see us as a community. And all these students have a place in this community. So the certificate gives them a place to build, make their own experiments, make their own courses, and actually fill the classrooms with new students so they can practice their own course. This is what we're doing now. And we have 5 competences we actually taught by. And the first competence is controversy. See, the world exists of differences, poor and rich, extreme polarization, black and white. And we never, in the schools, talk about these controversies. But it's extremely important to learn how to put yourself in the perspective of these controversies, so you can also make a difference. The second competence is empathy. Actively knowing someone's motivations and make them your own. So you not merely see that someone is different than you, but actually understand why someone is different than you, and then appreciate that someone is different than you. The third competence is resourcefulness. This is stimulating the creative mind, how to deal with situations in a new kind of way, how to think around these problems, and also, in fact, knowing that every problem is a solution on itself for something else. The fourth competence is experience, and this is an actual photograph of our classrooms. See, we also teach about power and influence, and we don't just want to give our students another book and say, read this book 3 times, know it by heart, and then you will get a test about it. No, we want them to experience certain blocks in their mind, but also in their physique, like I mentioned, so they will get an experience they will never ever forget. And the last competence is introspection, which is obviously zooming out for a little while and seeing what is happening right now. What is happening in this situation? Is this a symbol? And if it is a symbol, what does it symbolize? And what can we learn from that? What insights do we take away? We were picked up by the media quite fast. And by this, we could, by this media, we could grow, upscale in a really quick pace. This also means we were invited to Hong Kong a few weeks ago. This obviously means an enormous business opportunity for us as a company. But what we cannot do is talk about sustainability each and every day and then fly back and forth to Hong Kong just to talk about inspiration in this 21st century where we have all the resources and all the equipment to see other solutions. See, I talked about resourcefulness, and in these kind of situations, you have to practice what you preach, also as a company. So please let that be a takeaway. We are now live streaming, not going to Hong Kong, but live streaming this meeting so we can inspire the educational system there, but will not spend 3 tons of CO2 in the air just so we can take a few pictures and go back home again, because that will be good for our company. That's not what we're going to do. So I would like to invite you to think about your own company. Make some magic. Think about your core values. Why do you do it? And also feel the connection with who do you do it for. See, in our case, it was students, and it's very important, even after 3 years, because we got a lot of systems stopping. I'm sorry, I'm telling this wrong. We got a lot of systems restricting us from keeping to our core. So it's a constant process of circulation and going back to why do you do it? What's your core? What are your core values? And am I practicing what I'm preaching? Am I sticking to my core values, even if it's a really good business opportunity? So I would like to thank you very much, and I hope that you will take away what you came here for today. Thank you.